Okay, semen retention, day 1, no fap, sexual mastery, whatever you want to call it. Feel the energy of the universe come through your, I don't know. So I had a big dopamine binge last night, and my brain feels pretty good today, but I know that the pain-pleasure balance is going to tip to the side of pain in a couple days. And so I think I'm just mentally preparing for that right now. And I spend so much time, being bored, trying to rewire my brain, just to come around a couple weeks later and just dopamine binge. So it's okay. I accepted that I did that, and I'm not judging that. And all of the work I've done before that will compound into this next 90 days as well. It's not that it is some objective thing that is bad, but this goes against everything I value, and I prefer to not objectify human beings and ruin my brain in the process while not living up to my values. Attention spans are short nowadays, but if you're watching this and you're trying to really succeed on your no-fap journey, you have to understand that there are an infinite amount of ways we can justify to ourselves about why we should stimulate. And I think about them all the time. And so I feel like I'm doing a disservice if I don't go into every single detail, especially now, like being my age and in the age of indulgence. I think it's important for people in similar situations, similar age groups, to understand all the nuance that goes into this. So I'll start with spiritual stuff. So I had this insight that came into my mind today, that there is nothing more important than pursuing unity, connection, nature, anything of that sort. And I got to that because I've experienced enough trauma and healing in my life and just things to know that happiness does not come when I get more of something outside of me. It is a byproduct of how much I can let go of the idea of myself as being a separate thing from everything. So even though I know happiness is internal, when I scroll social media, right, these 3 beliefs of the ego, that of lack, attachment, and control, all of these things just are getting reminded to me whenever I look at social media, because I'm seeing what everyone else is doing. And I got to this point today where I realized that I'm not really sacrificing anything by giving up social media temporarily. I understand it's a tool, but right now I know my brain is not using it as a tool, and it's using it as a medium to work against myself, the porn and stuff. So in every other situation where I've learned to let go, it's worked out. I don't have to try to go to events or talk to people. Like, these things come up naturally. But when we're not on social media, we fear FOMO, fear of missing out and all these events, nice people we can meet. But I think it's important to understand that it is not healthy to know what every single person is doing on the planet at all moments. There's a part of you that just feels like you're missing out because you're watching everyone else live their life. And so I just got tired of that. I'm like, I value my own brain and my own life. And once those things are in check, things will work out. Things will attract into my life, because that's happened before. I never have to think about it. And so coming back to that insight of God is the most important thing to pursue, the only thing I'm really sacrificing by giving up social media is control. Because whenever you're on social media, you have a sense of control. You can post, you're this person, you see other people, they post, and it's all very structured. And the ego loves to attach itself to that. Today has been wild because I felt kind of right when I woke up. Then I went out in nature and eventually got to a point of like pure bliss and love. And after that, it was like this wave of just death hit me, and my brain was like, stimulate. And that was about 20 minutes ago, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because you will experience more physical pain in your body. The opioid receptors, when you nut, are getting desensitized. And so your motivation receptors, dopamine receptors, get desensitized. So I just want to tell you, and by you watching this video, you can see it is a normal thing and that you shouldn't judge what's happening. You will feel more physical pain and mental pain. The mental pain is almost harder because you're just sitting there and something just feels off. Your vitality is gone. You just feel dead. This is a normal thing. Another thing I've experienced is it's a lot easier to identify with the ego during these dopamine withdrawal states. It's easy to say, I'm not my thoughts and feelings whenever you feel good. But then whenever you feel bad, it's like, oh man, am I? Because this is kind of affecting my well-being. And I've noticed that before, when I've done this porn brain rewire stuff, my spiritual connection is like, spiritual, if you want to call it nature, it's so much greater whenever my dopamine receptors are less desensitized. It feels like my body is more of an open vessel for that like connection, divine energy, whatever you want to call it, to come in. That feeling of unity is so much greater. Like, I don't have to try. Something that's been helping me is just radically accepting that the emotion I'm feeling and the anxious thoughts I'm feeling is okay, and it is just my brain craving stimulation. That's all it is. I don't have to identify with the thoughts. I'm just taking the observer seat. Like, it's easier, but over time it's way harder if you identify with your thoughts and feelings, if that makes sense. God, right? Anytime I say anything about God, unity, connection, nature, I don't want you to believe that, because that's not what happened to me. And I don't think that's a good enough reason just to believe something because someone told you. In my meditation journey, right, as I started doing more shadow work and starting to disintegrate this idea of myself as being a separate idea from everything, my natural state of being got into more bliss, more love, just from letting go of the character. And so, again, don't believe, but experience. Okay. I was scrolling and I saw a potentially triggering picture. And I was like, oh, no, I got that. It's fine. And then I went past it. And I could tell I started to go unconscious and was waiting for another type of picture like it. And so then it was like this downward spiral because of all the stress. I was like, why am I doing this? And then my willpower turned off. And it was a downward spiral. Eventually I turned my phone off and then just laid down and meditated and regulated my emotions through the breath and meditation. But moral of the story is, never try to scroll to test yourself and see if you got it, because your brain will just find the new one, and every single time you get that new little hit, then it's just harder and harder to get out of. Chilling here in Alabama. It's day something. I had a dopamine splurge again this morning, but I tried a different technique by Aaron Abke, where instead of engaging in the habit and feeling yourself as becoming more separate from everything, realize that it's actually impossible to be separate from everything, and that those emotions of lack and separation are just an illusion. And so as I was splurging or whatever, I was trying to place my attention back on God or connection, nature, whatever you want to call it, and it kind of helps reorient my brain to what matters. And I still haven't released since the beginning of this video, but I feel like this is definitely the way. I can't see another way out other than through this experience of unity and connection, because that is self-sufficient. Okay, so I'm in the mountains and I was chilling in the forest, and I had my phone and I was like, wow, I could do this right here, right now. Even though it's weird, the thought came and the dopamine started going like crazy. And so I just took the step back. I observed what was happening in my mind. And then I realized that the body-mind is not me, and that my true nature is self-sufficient. And that's just
me thinking I'm that voice in my head saying I'm the one addicted to this thing. As soon as I dropped the identity, the urge just went away. And so that Aaron Abke quote of all addictions are just in ignorance of God, in ignorance of our true nature, it simplifies everything so much. And I think that's what this is going to come back to. Getting over this addiction is just keep reminding myself of my true nature. And I denied an urge earlier, and I did meditation, breathwork, cold shower, the whole deal. And it was great. It felt good, but I'm noticing that my brain is on that pain side of the balance today. It's very irritable. I kind of like am judging people, more like subconsciously. And I'm not like judging myself for judging it, but I'm kind of more seeing it as just like a product of physiology doing its work on my mind. And so that's what today is like. That's totally normal for you to experience that in your porn brain rewire journey. So don't be discouraged if you feel a little bit irritable. It's completely just your brain trying to reset itself. Or you could be a dick, it could be either. But yeah. I know this was supposed to be a no-path journey, but last night I decided to experiment and go as deep as I could down the rabbit hole and see if I could ever get to a point where I realized it truly just wasn't fulfilling. And that did happen. But I'm realizing now that I don't have to keep testing myself to see if my brain's better, because if I wasn't trying to do the habit right, I wouldn't set myself up in a poor environment. Monks don't go to the strip club, right? And so there was this cool moment today where I noticed that I could understand that my brain wanted the stimulation, but I can make the distinction between myself and my brain and its wants, its chemical needs. And so that was kind of cool, because that kind of ties into the you're not your thoughts or your feelings thing. So I've had a little bit of that today, which was pretty cool. There's another aspect on this addiction journey where, yeah, you probably shouldn't set yourself up in a poor environment, but also how cool would it be to be able to explore any environment and still remain non-attached to life? That way you're not having to worry about, all these different aspects, but you can fully embrace life for what it is and not have to worry about triggering yourself. And what I'm realizing is that the more I pursue meditation and other spiritual, practices, is that the less I have to try to not do the stimulating things. It's I just don't want to do them as much, because I can see they're not as fulfilling. The more aware I become of my true essence, whatever you want to call it, it makes me want to do the other things less. And so I think there is that aspect to consider. I think the other side of that is that the longing for sexual intimacy is one of the highest priority actions we could do for our survival. And so our brain and body has made it extremely rewarding to feel those sexual tendencies. And so there's that aspect of what do you expect, if you are on a platform that's nothing but that, or that can easily turn into nothing but that with the algorithm. And so I think there is some truth there as well in considering, a proper environment. So considering both of those approaches, I think it is important to have a top to bottom and a bottom to top approach for trying to overcome an addiction. And in my experience, I feel again comes back to getting out of my own way, because it feels I don't have to try to do anything to make things happen, to attract people, to just make opportunities just come in my life. It's when I stop trying and stop focusing on the shoulds and the obligations, those things naturally come. And so it's so easy to get in the overthinking trap of, am I going in the right direction, or is this the right move? And then you don't kind of get anywhere because you're so lost and paralyzed in uncertainty. And so you kind of pursue everything with a little hesitancy. And I think just getting out of the own way allows life to express itself through you. Yesterday I tried to sing and my nervous system was just giving me all the signs of threat. My body was not ready to sing. Everything felt awful. And so I decided to just de-excite my nervous system and meditate. And I tapped into that bliss state and that fulfillment. And it's very wild because when I woke up this morning, I can tell my subconscious has been processing the fact that fulfillment does not come from achieving things, but it comes from the letting go of feeling like you need to achieve things. And so I'm 21 and it feels like I'm supposed to have stumbled upon these insights, after I'm like 60 and have worked the corporate job that I've hated for 20 years. And so I'm realizing that I don't know if I'm going to die tomorrow. I have, this life ahead of me. And with these insights, it's so strange because it's such an easy thing to chase, do more, be more. But then realizing you can pursue life from presence and fulfillment by letting go is insane. So after I have that insight from waking up, I'm sitting in the bathroom and I can tell my brain is wanting to go to that productivity trap of, you need to be doing breath work and cold shower and meditating. And what I'm realizing is that I can use all of those tools to better enhance my body and mind to allow me to help others better. But if I make it about myself and think that it'll bring me fulfillment by making me better at things, then I feel like I'm getting in my own way. Weird times. So it's my whole life I've been playing this game of striving to be more and do more to get some result, and that result being emotional fulfillment. But now that the paradigm has completely just flipped backwards, and I'm realizing that through learning how to have complete emotional fulfillment through non-attachment, I can actually pursue life with this kid energy, and it's just fun and it just happens and I'm present. But that part of the person growing up is I want to hold on to that and think I have somewhere to be, I have something to do. But it's do I? Fuck. Literally insane because whether or not a God created everything, something had to always exist, or something had to cause something into existence. So it's both are just equally insane to think about. And it's wild to think about the loops we catch ourselves in of does he or she care about me? And we forget that we're in this magic ass world where there is something rather than nothing, and we can perceive things, and we can have out-of-body experiences, and we can create different abstract things out of nowhere. What is this?